Different tables in our database represent different entities, such as customers, departments, employees, products, invoices, and so forth. When we design our database, we need to know how these entities relate to each other. Sometimes the word cardinality is used to describe the different types of relationships that can occur between these entities or tables. So cardinality refers to how the occurrences of one entity are linked to the number of occurrences in another entity. There are three types of relationships: a one-to-one, a one-to-many, and a many-to-many. On an entity relationship diagram that uses the crow's feet notation, you may see the relationships represented by these symbols: one, a many, a one and only one, 0 to one or many, or zero or many. We will see how these work between entities here in a minute. Let's look at the one-to-one relationship. Say we have an entity representing an employee, and we have another entity representing a company car. We know that each employee is allocated a company car, and each company car is assigned to one employee. If we look at the crow's feet notation representing this relationship, we see that one and only one employee has a company car, and one and only one company car is assigned to an employee. Perhaps we have some employees who don't need a company car. Therefore, we might see something like this, where an employee might have a car allocated to them, but some employees might not have a car at all. The left side of the notation we're assuming remains the same here. If there is a company car, it will be assigned to one and only one employee. Here we have another one-to-one example. Each library item can either be a book, a video, or a magazine. Not both, or not all of them. So we have a one-to-one relationship between a library item and a video, a one-to-one relationship between a library item and a book, and a one-to-one relationship between the library item and a magazine. Take a look at how the primary and the foreign keys are related here. The primary key of library items is item ID, and it is related as a foreign key of the other tables. Notice the red diamond. Each library item will belong to one and only one of those three categories. It will be either a video, a book, or a magazine. Now, if we look at the structure of the entities as they would look in a database with data entered into the tables, we see that the same primary and foreign key structure are at work here. The video table is left off, but we can see that each primary key in the library items table is related to a foreign key in the books, the magazines, or the video table. The foreign key won't be repeated in those tables because there will be one and only one book or magazine or video for each of those library items. And vice versa, each library item is either a book, a magazine, or a video, just one of those. Here's another example of why you might want a one-to-one relationship. The one-to-one relationship is not as common as the other two relationships that we'll talk about today, but here is a good example of why you might use it. Say you have an employee table, and anyone the employee can have access, to this data in the employee table. But there are some attributes of the employee you want kept private, like their salary or their social security number or maybe their home address. So for security and privacy reasons, you might want that information stored in a separate table of the database. There would be a one-to-one relationship here because each employee would have one and only one private information about them. And the private information about each employee belongs to one and only one employee. Let's look at the one-to-many relationship. So we have an entity of customer and an entity of orders. A customer makes orders, and an order is made by a customer. For example, My one customer account with Amazon has many orders that I've made in the past with it. So the crow's feet notation, we can see that we have a one-to-many relationship here. A customer can make one-to-many orders, and an order is made by one and only one customer. Now, it could be argued that one order could be purchased by many customers. But if you think about a transaction, usually it boils down to one customer who uses their one account to order, regardless of how many people use what was ordered in the end. So for our purposes here, we are assuming one customer and only one customer makes an order. But over time, that one customer can make many purchases, many orders, but each order belongs to one customer. This is a one-to-many relationship. Here's an example of two entities, the departments of a company and the employees who work for that company. Each department has employees, and each employee belongs to a department within that company. Here we see that a department has to have at least one employee, but it could have many employees, and each employee belongs to one and only one department. Here are the same entities in the database with data in each entity. We have two departments representing the accounting department and the IT department. The primary keys here are abbreviated characters for each department. But in the employees table, you can see that many people can belong to that one department. Robert and Letty both belong to the accounting department, for example. The primary key is related to the foreign key of each employee in the employees table. That foreign key value can be repeated many times in the employees table because the different employees can belong to that department. Okay, lastly, we have the many-to-many relationship between entities. Say we have a student entity and a class entity. This is a many-to-many relationship here. For example, at this university, students can take classes, and classes have students in them. In our example here, a class can have one or more students in the class, and a student can take one or more classes. Here is another many-to-many example. A person can subscribe to many magazines, and a magazine can have many subscribers. Relational databases don't allow you to implement a direct many-to-many relationship. A many-to-many relationship always has to be resolved or broken down into two one-to-many relationships. Therefore, it would look something like this. This provides a much better data structure for the database. It is simple to do and usually makes a lot of sense. This table that is created is referred to as a linking table, or maybe you'll hear it called a joining table or a bridge table. But here we see that it makes a logical table called subscriptions. One subscriber can have many subscriptions, and each subscription belongs to one subscriber. One magazine can have many subscriptions, and each subscription belongs to one magazine. Here's the table data. We can see that Sally Smith has 2 subscriptions. Her primary key of 234 is listed twice in the subscriptions table. Her 2 subscriptions belong to the Ensign and the Friend. So here we go. There's Sally Smith with 234. Her 2 subscriptions that belong to the primary key of Ensign and Friend. In the other one-to-many relationship that we created, we have magazines to subscriptions. We see that one magazine, for example, the Ensign, can have many subscriptions. So Sally and Mark Miller both have a subscription to the Ensign here. The linking table will have 2 foreign keys. And in this case, the 2 foreign keys make up the composite primary key of the linking table. They are both needed together to uniquely identify each row of the table. If we look back here, we can see an easy way to remember when you're trying to resolve a many-to-many is that linking table will have the many part of the relationship next to it on both sides. So that's one way to easily remember that one. And then we see that the linking table is the one that has the two foreign keys as well that repeat. All right, so back to our university example here. The students and the classes have that many-to-many relationship. It can be resolved in a logical linking table of enrollment. One student can enroll many times in each class, and each class has many students enrolled in it. So there we have the three entity relationships that you will work with while designing your database: the one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many.